elsewhere. Plus, there's exclusive interviews with MPs from all parties.
But quite often, they paper over the real truth. Why does a working class lad like you join the Tories?
That's a good question.
Don't miss it, Monday to Thursdays at noon on GB News.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
we're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's a former Conservative advisor, Claire Pearsall, and also Conservative commentator, Calvin Robinson. Before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. It's 4 o'clock. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has made a surprise visit to Ukraine. Posting a photo with President Volodymyr Zelensky on Twitter, he says it's good to be in Kyiv again. Ukraine's leader responded by saying the war has proven that the UK's support is firm and resolute. It comes after the European Commission announced it's backing Ukraine's bid for EU membership. Wearing the colours of the Ukrainian flag, President Ursula von der Leyen says it's based on the understanding that a number of reforms will be carried out.
Yes, Ukraine deserves European perspective. Yes, Ukraine should be welcomed as a candidate country. This is on the understanding that good work has been done, but important work also remains to be done. The entire process is merits-based. So it goes by the book, and therefore progress depends entirely on Ukraine. It is Ukraine that has it in their hands, and what could be better to shape your own future.
Back here, a former soldier has been convicted of murdering his neighbours while their children were asleep in their home. Stephen and Jennifer Chappell were both stabbed 6 times by Colin Reeves following a parking row near Taunton last November. Reeves, who served in Afghanistan, denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter on grounds of diminished responsibility. Well, thousands of flights are being cancelled over the next 2 months, affecting travel plans for holidaymakers. Our national reporter, Paul Hawkins, joins us now live from Gatwick Airport. Paul, Gatwick says the vast majority of scheduled flights are going to be running as normal. So how much disruption is this going to cause?
A limited amount of disruption. 95% of the flights over July and August will run as scheduled. 5% are subject to change. The airport telling airlines that you need to reduce the number of flights to match the numbers of ground staff that you have. Those are the people who work on the check-in desk. They get the baggage onto the plane, they refuel it, turn the plane around. So they're trying to match demand with the numbers of staff there. If you are travelling to fly from Gatwick over July and August, you'll get an email saying your flight's been changed. Likelihood is there will be you'll be put on another flight, but probably with the same airline at a slightly different time. Failing that, it could be a different airline but on the same route. Alternatively, there could be a significant change to your holiday, but that is a tiny minority of that 5%. The vast majority of flights are scheduled to run on time. From July and August from Gatwick, who are putting on, or rather recruiting 400 security staff. They're due to start in the next couple of weeks. Their target is 450 security staff, so they're confident that over the summer period here at Gatwick, they'll be able to meet the demand.
And Paul, Gatwick airports say that those staff shortages have played no role in the death of a disabled man who apparently fell off a plane when he was trying to get off without a helper. What's the latest on that story?
Yeah, they're sticking to that. They're saying that, there were no staff shortages and that the passenger wasn't left waiting for a significant length of time, as has been reported in other sections of the media. There is an investigation ongoing and they're sticking with that, an investigation by the authorities.
Paul Hawkins at Gatwick Airport, thank you very much. Well, temperatures have reached 32.4 degrees Celsius at Heathrow Airport and could climb further still to 34 degrees in parts of the southeast. The Met Office has issued a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the southeast. That's the second highest level and means there are risks to vulnerable people. Julian Assange's wife says her husband will be driven to suicide if he's extradited to the US, where he's facing charges of espionage. The WikiLeaks founder has 14 days to appeal the Home Secretary's decision. The Home Office says the UK courts have found extradition is compatible with his human rights, including his right to a fair trial. He's wanted by the American authorities over documents leaked in 2010 and 2011. Stella Assange says they'll fight to return Julian to his family.
This was always a possibility that Priti Patel would approve sending Julian to the country that has plotted to assassinate him. We're not at the end of the road here. We're going to fight this. We're going to use every appeal avenue. And we're going to fight. I'm going to spend every waking hour fighting for Julian until he's free, until justice is served.
Downing Street has welcomed the possibility of the UK hosting the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest if this year's winner, Ukraine, can't. A Number 10 spokesman pledged it would ensure it would overwhelmingly reflect Ukraine's rich culture, heritage and creativity. The European Broadcasting Union's decided next year's Eurovision won't be held in the war-torn country. Instead, the BBC's in talks to host it in the UK, this year's runner-up. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. What the hell is going on with the NHS? Now, this week, we hear more harrowing stories of people who would ordinarily be saved dying because of the interminable waits for ambulances. A 94-year-old man who waited 5 hours died. Yesterday, it was racism within the ranks. I'm loath to call it structural or institutional because nobody really knows what these terms actually mean. And by calling it one of these, it absolves the culpable of being racist of all responsibility and allows racist people to carry on with their racist practices and get away with it by blaming their behaviour on a structure or an institution. Sorry, I had to say that. And today, yet more bad news. This time it's about waste. Apparently 1 in 10 prescriptions are for medicines that are no longer needed. Now, as I understand it, the main reason for this current hike in national insurance is to pay for the amount the government spent on the NHS during the pandemic. We are giving this money from our taxes in good faith to plug an apparent hole to keep the service going. However, I am sick and tired of finding out that the NHS is throwing our money at the wall, spending it like water because it's easy come, easy go. A bit like the BBC spending millions of we, the compulsory licence fee payers' money on things like research, asking us what we want to see on our screens. Well, I can tell them what we don't want to hear, more stories of waste. So when I read that the reason 1 in 10 prescriptions are unnecessary and that the reason for this waste is that patients are taking pills they no longer need, many unable to see a GP during the pandemic, and now a lack of face-to-face appointments means they are continuing with unnecessary treatment, it raises my blood pressure. So the thing I am now paying extra taxes in the main to support is the very institution that is chucking my cash at the wall because of overprescribing, because they can't be bothered to see people. It makes me wonder how much of this 12 billion that we're raising through our taxes will be wasted. These prescription primary care drugs cost the NHS almost £10 billion a year, which means that almost 1 billion could be saved by stopping this nonsense. Professor Sir Stephen Powis, the National Director for the NHS England, said, reducing unnecessary prescriptions, which can increase the risk of harm and cause unwanted side effects, is more important than ever. And a report showed that 1 in 5 hospital admissions for those over 65 was as a result of a drug side effect. I wonder how much more has been spent on fixing effects, in many cases long-term, for overprescribing these things. Dennis Reed, he's the director of Silver Voices, he claimed that doctors often see pills as an easy fix. He also went on to say that if doctors had the time to address the underlying condition and could quickly get patients the treatment they need, there would be less need for drugs such as painkillers and antidepressants. Forgive me, but I thought that was their job. Forget broken. The NHS is making us broke and pumping more money into it as a sticking plaster. We need to fix the underlying condition. Waste. Right, so before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. In the Great British Debate this afternoon, I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Tens of thousands of passengers have been hit by cancellations and delays at UK airports in the past few weeks. Today, Gatwick Airport has reduced the number of flights during the summer period because of staff shortages. It all seems like a bit of a fuss to me. I mean, we've had plenty of nice places to go on holiday here in the UK, and the weather today is absolutely glorious. So I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? In our health breakthrough, we're talking about the weather. Of course, the mini heat wave which has hit the south of England has reached us. It reached its peak today, but sadly for some this brings runny noses, itchy eyes and dry throats. It's the dreaded hay fever, of course, and there's currently no cure for hay fever, and you can't really prevent it either. So what do you think? But can you find things to ease your symptoms when the pollen count is high? We'll give you a rundown of the best treatments before 5. And moving on to our Friday focus today, we're looking at menopause. Now, this week, Speaker Lindsay Hoyle vowed to make the House of Commons menopause-friendly by signing the Menopause Workplace Pledge. But scientists in the British Medical Journal have warned against medicalisation of the menopause as it spreads the message that it signals decay and decline. That's coming up in the next hour. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Right, so let's get started. I mean, I have a touch of the old hay fever as well. It's so annoying. Let's welcome again to my panel former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall and also Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. Right, so first I want to talk to you about the story that I was discussing. Claire, I'm going to start with you as a Conservative advisor. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? What's going on with the NHS? I mean, they're talking about we're paying more tax so that we can support it and pay for the stuff that was spent during the pandemic, but they're wasting money constantly.
But it's been like this for such a long time. I mean, I remember having a conversation with you some months ago regarding waste in the NHS.
Yeah.
And nobody can get a handle on it. And I think what people are afraid to say is that the NHS doesn't work. Because the minute you start to say, this needs to be better, we need to make changes, as a Conservative, people accuse you of wanting to sell it off and privatise it. But that's not the point of it. We have seen that it doesn't work. Ambulances are queuing at the door, there are no beds for patients, and this chronic overprescribing of medication. And I've had to use the NHS myself recently, for myself and for my son. And I can tell you what, in 2 different hospitals in parts of Kent, the treatment was so very different.
Really?
1 county, 2 hospitals. My son's treatment, I can't fault. I absolutely can't. Emergency appendix operation was treated brilliantly. Me, on the other hand, I fell off the horse, fractured my pelvis, was treated by some fantastic staff with the doctors, but the follow-up care was appalling. They threw a lot of medication at me when actually what I needed was some physiotherapy.
Do you think it's because you're older? Sorry, no.
No, I'm not. No, I am old. Let's all put it there. But no, I do think it's that. I do think it's because I'm older. I should have known better at my age to be riding a horse.
Horses, for God's sake.
But it's ridiculous things like, give me a pair of crutches, but didn't tell me actually how to go up and down stairs with them.
Oh, you could have worked that out. No,
actually, not really. When you can't put any weight through one part of your body, you're in a lot of pain. You don't know how to do it. And it actually took a friend of mine to put some stuff on YouTube and just send it to me and say, have a look at this and see if it helps. Just trying to get your head round which leg goes where and which arm and which stick. And
in not too much graphic detail, how do you manage it? What do you do with a broken pelvis? How do you get up there?
With exceptional difficulty. I went upstairs on my bottom, I came downstairs on my bottom for about a week because I couldn't put any weight through it and I didn't want to fall and add to it. But after that, it was a lot of reading up with rehabilitation exercises.
On YouTube and stuff?
Absolutely, on YouTube and other people's experiences on the internet. And that's how I got through it.
Well, you see the staff Googling things as well. I've been to see them when they've actually gone their iPad or whatever it is to Google stuff to say how to treat me. Calvin, what do you think?
It's a mess, isn't it?
It's a mess.
I think during the last general election, the Labour Party said if you vote Conservatives, they're going to sell off the NHS to Donald Trump. So at this point, we do have a mandate for the Conservatives to sell the NHS. I think that might be a good thing. I think we should privatise the NHS. I don't think it's fit for purpose as it stands. This last year, we spent about £123 billion on the NHS. Over the next year, we're going to spend 50 billion more, so 170-odd billion pounds. To put that into perspective, the support that we've sent the Ukraine costs about 2.7 days' worth of funding of the NHS.
Wow.
You know, the Rwanda flight was about 90 seconds of NHS funding.
Wow.
This is how much money we are splashing out, and we just keep spending more and more thinking that's going to solve the problem. It's clearly not. When 15% of the population is on more than 5 drugs, everyone's rattling around because doctors are just throwing drugs at them because, of course, it's just on prescription. It's costing a hell of a lot of money, but it's not the best practice.
It just seems as though, because they're getting money easily, and that is just through the taxpayer, that they are not behaving like a business, which, even though they are funded by us, they should do. There is no company that you could work for that will be able to just chuck money apart from the BBC.
It's poor accountability.
Well, but for the same reasons. It's just that nobody's accounting for it. And it's very difficult to talk to those trusts as well. So if you ask or you try and go to one of the trusts and say, look, you've wasted money on this, there's this wall of not being able to get through. I mean, Claire, your advisor, you work in the capacity for the Conservative Party in a sense. How do people get through to, say, if a trust, you know, in terms of wastage, how do we find out how much money each of these trusts are wasting?
Well, I think that's the difficulty. I mean, you can go to each individual hospital chief executive, and I do it frequently, make a pain of myself, and email them directly. But the real problem is because they're in trusts, so you then have to go to a trust director, and then you have NHS England, and you have clinical commissioning groups. And the management of the NHS is enormous. And it is vast, there are too many people in it, and it's complicated. So you will never get a straight answer. You want to know your local hospital, how much you're spending, how much is wasted. They're not going to tell you, they're going to hide behind, it's a trust issue. So then, you know, so the trust of that area will say, oh, well, you know, NHS England tell us this, or central government tell us this. So you can't get through to it. So I think the ultimate arbiter of all of this does really have to be the Health Secretary. So perhaps we should all start looking at the Health Secretary and saying, how do you simplify this? Come on, you've said you want to make this change. Let's go ahead and do it. Let's see if he's brave enough.
break it apart, get rid of the management structure, get rid of that diagonal sort of zigzag chain of command, which is deliberately designed to sort of disperse all responsibility.
It does.
So no one is culpable.
People get fed up with trying to find an answer because they get fobbed off with, it's not me, it's the next person. And they expect people to give up. And, you know, people like me are here to, you know, so you don't give up and you keep going because you have to make that fuss. It's not right.
And during the Brexit campaign, the Remainers, or after the campaign, the Remainers were saying, look, you said on the side of that red bus you were going to spend £350 million a week that we're sending to the European Union. We're going to spend it on the NHS as if that's going to fix the problem. We spend nearly that amount per day on the NHS, so it's not going to solve the problem. We've got to stop putting the NHS on a pedestal. We've got to look at other countries, see how they address their healthcare, because, you know, other countries do it better than us and for cheaper than us. And we've got to stop pretending that our system is the best in the world. It's no longer that case.
I just feel that we're going to keep talking about it and nothing ever gets done. If I were the Health Secretary, I'd be right in there. I'd split up the trusts. I'd make them one unified sort of state, the one centralised body, and I'd deal with it that way. And I'd put procurement at the centre of that as well to make sure that I can benefit from things like economies of scale. I mean, I don't get why they think that it works better as lots of discombobulated individual units trying to...
Yeah, but this is always the difficulty. When you start saying we need to break this up, and that is eminently sensible, as is the sort of part privatisation, when you look at other health models in other countries, they are far better. Those who can pay, pay. You start mentioning it in this country and you're treated as if you are the devil.
Well, you know, there's plenty of those devils around. If you've just joined us, welcome. It is just coming up to 19 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel, and after the break, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, are you sick and tired of travelling abroad? Now, we've had 10-week passport delays, and now Gatwick Airport are cutting summer flights because of staff shortages. We have brilliant places right here in the UK, although there's a train strike, so you might not be able to get to them. But let's not worry about that. You can holiday there, although, again, the cost of driving as well is quite expensive and probably isn't that appealing. But, hey, who cares? So for my Great British Debate, I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Send us your thoughts. Email gbnews@gbnews.uk. Tell me what you think. You can also tweet at gbnews. There is a poll up right now asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Cast your vote now, but first, it's the weather.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office with me, Alex Deakin. If you're not a fan of the heat, good news. Cooler weather is on the way. It's already arrived across Scotland and Northern Ireland. In fact, quite a wet morning here thanks to this weather front. It's a cold front and it is introducing colder air, but it's not here yet. Still very warm across a good part of England and Wales and staying that way well into the evening. A balmy summer's evening over the Midlands, southern counties of England and Wales. Something a bit misty around the coast in the southwest, and a little bit of rain on that weather front trickling into northern England and North Wales, but turning drier across Scotland and Northern Ireland this evening with just a few showers and a fairly brisk wind in the far northwest. Much more comfortable conditions as well, with that cold front introducing the fresher air, but another very warm and difficult night for sleeping across the southeast. 17, 18 the low in the London area. And still very warm and humid in the southeast on Saturday, and still mostly dry here with hazy sunshine, but a very different day across the Midlands, central parts of Wales, South Wales and East Anglia, with some heavy rain developing and temperatures significantly lower. Generally dry across northern England, but with a fair bit of clouds. Sunny spells for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and just a few showers in the far northwest. Again, that contrast with comfortable conditions across the north. One more very warm day across the southeast, but temperatures much lower than today across that central slice, where some of the rain will be on the heavy side and last well into Saturday evening before slowly pushing further south and introducing the cooler conditions more widely as we go into Sunday. Now, Sunday will be a bit messy, but expect some showers across the south, a greater chance of showers in the southeast and certainly for the southwest, but much of the Midlands northwards looking dry and bright on Sunday. Just a few scattered showers in the far north, with the winds coming down from the north. It isn't going to be warm here, with temperatures only 13 or 14, and mostly we're in the high teens at best. So it is turning quite a bit cooler as we go through the course of this weekend. Bye for now.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
and we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick.
Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. If you've just tuned in, where have you been? There's so much going on today. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. You can even download the GB News app where you can catch up with everything that we do here on the People's Channel. Right, let's have a look at what you've been saying about the NHS. Eddie says, hi, Nana. I've just opened a letter from the NHS dated the 14th of June 2022. Advising me of an appointment on the 13th of June. You couldn't make it up. What's the date today? What's the date today?
17th.
Is it the 17th?
Yeah.
Oh, dear. They backdated it. Rob says, scrap the commissioning groups. They can be replaced by one person with a computer. Pay consultants per patient they treat rather than giving them a salary. There's a start for you. Yeah, you never know. They might treat people really fast. They might, not even properly. They'll be like, well, I've done that one. Next. That's the trouble with that. We tried a payment by results. It never went down well at all. They're going to do it again, apparently. Pam says the trouble with the NHS is too many cheats. Make the GPs go back into the surgeries. Get rid of all the managers. Bring back the matrons. Bring back matron. Agreed, 100%. Keep your thoughts coming. But, of course, now it is time for our great British debate this hour. And I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Now, more than 260,000 passengers could be affected this summer as Gatwick caps its operations. Other airlines have got rid of too many staff, which has led to delays at check-ins. We've had backlogs with getting a passport. It's all a lot of hassle. They even overbook just in case. So for my great British debate this hour, I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? I'm joined now by a travel expert, Lisa Nand. Right, so Lisa, first of all, it's good to see. Are you back in the UK now? Last time you were off somewhere nice. Are you in the UK?
Yeah, can't remember where I was last time I spoke to you. But yes, I'm in Hove, in Brighton, and Hove, where it actually feels like I'm permanently on holiday, even when I'm working. So that's my advice, move to the seaside.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? So first of all, tell us a bit about why the flights abroad this summer are actually being reduced.
Oh, it's such a nightmare, really. Mainly it's about people having left the industry during the course of the pandemic, whether they were made redundant, because there were a lot of redundancies, but also people have chosen to leave. And it just seems that the airlines cannot get back up and running quick enough in terms of the, supply demand, because we all want to go on holiday at this point. Many people have a pent-up demand. There is the demand for travel, and they're struggling to get people. So you've heard of these delays, last-minute delays and cancellations. What they're doing now is trying to mitigate that by saying, we're going to plan these cancellations in advance, which obviously is a little bit better because everyone can sort of plan for them. That said, when you look at the numbers, it does affect a lot of people, scores of thousands of people, but it's actually realistically only 95% of flights. 95% of flights are unaffected. It's only 5%, a maximum of 5% of flights. So, theoretically, your flight, most of us are going to go away and it's going to be okay.
Yes, I mean, they've made a bit of a mountain out of it then if it's just 5%, because it looks like it's pretty much all across the board. But then, I mean, Claire, who's here, she's been to Turkey, she's going again. She hasn't been affected by it as well. It seems that there seems to be a lot of noise going on. I don't know whether it's actually as bad as it sounds.
But well, it's bad because it has affected a lot of people. And when it's your flight, it's hideous. You know, like you said, it's going to be 260,000 people. And that is a lot of people. And it's awful. You know, like flying and holiday is an emotional thing as well as a financial one, isn't it? You look forward to going away and planning it. And then you get to the airport, you've got your kids, your bags. You know, it's a nightmare if it's cancelled. But, you know, and it is our job here on the news. We have to talk about the bad stuff that's happening because it is happening. But I think sometimes because, you know, we're so onto it, we also help, you know, it's a self-perpetuating thing that actually people think, well, I'm not going away, I'm going to stay in this country. Nothing wrong with this country at all, of course. Well, no, but what I was trying to say was actually that, but even though it's just 5%, which isn't actually that many compared to 95%, it's no fun if you're in that 5%, but the amount of coverage it's getting makes it sound like that is more. But what I'm saying here is that coupled by that, though, there is the passport backlog. So even if your flight isn't cancelled, a lot of people can't go away because their passport hasn't returned. Yeah, absolutely. You know, that's happening again. We've had so many things. We've had the passport backlog, the airline cancellation, and also the queues at airports, which is not down to the airlines, but that's actually down to people on the ground, a staff shortage there. So it just seems, you know, if you are caught up in it, and there will be, you know, hundreds of thousands of people caught up in it, it just seems like a nightmare all round.
I suppose if you are in that 5%, it is a nightmare all round, and then added with the passport annoyance, it's quite irritating. Lisa, enjoy yourself. Thank you so much for talking to us. That is Lisa Francesca Nand. She's a travel expert. Right, now let's talk about staycations, because if you're not going abroad, you'll be staying here. And I'm delighted to say that Ross Jenkins, the owner of Bedale Camping and Caravanning Park in North Yorkshire, is with us. Hello.
Hi, Nana.
Yeah, well, it's good to talk to you. Now, look, are a lot of people, have you noticed that your numbers appear to have sort of gone up, Ross, because potentially people can't be bothered to go abroad now?
Absolutely unbelievable, and they're coming from all walks of life and all parts of this country, even from Europe. They're all coming in across from Europe, the Spanish, the French, the Dutch. Fantastic, just fantastic for North Yorkshire and the surrounding areas, and obviously from us they're going up to Scotland and beyond.
Now, your caravan park, though, so what's is there? Do you have the Crankies coming to your thing? Because I remember one time I went to one of these things, and the Crankies performed.
No, not quite on that scale. No, just general campers, tents, motorhomes and caravans. It's a fantastic stop-off here. And as I say, from there, we're in the middle of the country, obviously Yorkshire. Loads to see in Yorkshire again. And from us, as I say, they're up and down the country, both going and then coming back. No, people just enjoy it so much.
Are you, Ross, though, are you sick of going abroad? I mean, do you travel abroad much?
No, especially what's gone on out there. We've just kept it at bay. But no, it's, as I say, it's going really, really well at the moment. Very busy, and bookings right into December as well. So it's definitely got a knock-on effect. And people just don't want to be going abroad at the moment. A lot of people don't want to do that.
Would you normally go abroad and have a holiday in another country?
Just in the winter time when things quieten down on the side, so that's the only time to get away, I think. But just as I say, a lot of people are just stopping in this country. Obviously, it's brilliant for our economy, and just sick and tired and fed up of going abroad. So it's win-win-win for everybody, I think, over here.
Win for you there, Ross. Brilliant, lovely to talk to you. That's Ross Jenkins. He's there at Bedale Camping and Caravan Park. Hello. Thank you so much. He says that people, frankly, can't be bothered. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua on GB News, on TV, online and on digital radio. Can you be bothered to go abroad and go on a holiday? What are your thoughts? After the break, we'll continue with our great British debate. The question is, are you sick of travelling abroad? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall and also Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. Also, stay with us because at 5 o'clock in Friday Focus, we're talking about the menopause. Now, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker of the House of Commons, has agreed to break the taboo of the menopause by signing the Menopause Workplace Pledge. Scientists have warned against medicalisation of the menopause, however, so we'll get to the bottom of that one. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Nana. It's 4:32. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has made a surprise visit to Ukraine, telling President Volodymyr Zelensky it's good to be in Kyiv again. Boris Johnson has offered to launch a major training operation for Ukrainian forces, boosting the skills of up to 10,000 soldiers every 120 days. President Zelensky says the war has proven that the UK's support is firm and resolute. Well, it comes after the European Commission announced it's backing Ukraine's bid for EU membership. Wearing the colours of the Ukrainian flag, President Ursula von der Leyen says it's based on the understanding that a number of reforms will be carried out. In other news, a former soldier's been convicted of murdering his neighbours in their home while their children were asleep upstairs. Stephen and Jennifer Chappell were both stabbed 6 times by Colin Reeves following a parking row near Taunton last November. Reeves, who served in Afghanistan, denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Thousands of flights are being cancelled over the next 2 months, disrupting the travel plans of holidaymakers. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights from 900 to 825 in July and 850 in August to help tackle staffing problems. Temperatures have reached 32.4 degrees Celsius at Heathrow Airport and could climb further still to 34 degrees in parts of the southeast. The Met Office has issued a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the south east. That's the second highest level and means there are risks to vulnerable people. Downing Street has welcomed the possibility of the UK hosting the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest if this year's winner, Ukraine, can't. A Number 10 spokesman pledged to ensure it would overwhelmingly reflect Ukraine's rich culture, heritage and creativity. The European Broadcasting Union's decided next year's Eurovision won't be held in the war-torn country. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's back to Nana.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon, welcome on board. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. It is time now for the Great British Debate. I'm Nana Akua and I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Now, more than 260,000 passengers could be affected this summer as Gatwick caps its operations. And other airlines have also got rid of too many staff. They've obviously overbooked flights, and a lot of this has led to delays at check-ins. Now, we've had backlogs with even getting a passport. It all seems to be going abroad a load of hassle. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by Conservative advisor, former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Sorry about that. And also Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. Right. So, Calvin,
yes.
Going abroad, is that your thing? Do you go abroad?
I love it, absolutely. But I love staying at home in the UK as well. Throughout the so-called pandemic, I went to Scotland quite a lot, everywhere from Edinburgh up to Fort William, so all over the place, in the Highlands, taking lots of nice photographs. But as soon as we were able to travel again, I went to Croatia, and it was beautiful. It was a good change of scene. Yeah.
I do see on your Twitter feed you travelling to different locations. I think, oh, that looks nice.
Yeah.
Does he know someone there? Is his family there? But you just go.
I just pick somewhere and go. Usually go on lastminute.com or something like that and pick a holiday.
So you're not put off by going abroad?
No, not at all. But saying that, I do think we need to support the British economy, and there's lots of good places. I used to go to Skegness a lot as a child. Loved that.
That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah, just good old-fashioned holiday by the sea, in a caravan, near a chip shop. What more could you ask for?
Claire?
Yeah, I love going abroad. It is important to support our economy, but the trouble is that it is actually really expensive in the UK, and I think that's half the problem. And we went to Devon last year, which was beautiful, had an amazing holiday, but it took us 5 hours by road to get there, whereas to Istanbul it was 3.5 by plane, and the weather was lovely.
Probably cheaper to fly there as well.
It really was.
Well, what about the hassle? You stayed 3.5 hours to fly, but you've got to get yourself ready, get to the airport, add all that in.
You do, and it does. And it is an entire day taken up with travelling. And I can see that puts a lot of people off, especially if you have children. Trying to entertain them in an airport and then on an airplane is horrendous. But I do think it's worth doing. It's no worse than being stuck in a car, stuck on the motorway.
Stuck in an airport?
So, in an airport, you're there, aren't you? So you can look around, you can people watch, you can go and buy stuff. If you're stuck on the motorway, there is nothing you can do about it. So I think there's a place for both. And I don't think that we need to say that you have to do one over the other.
No.
Yes, it's an enormous hassle, but I think also the airports are making this a lot worse for themselves by just not admitting that they shouldn't have sacked the staff that they did during the pandemic. I mean, this is coming back to bite them at the moment. Having just travelled through Gatwick, I must admit, was brilliant. We didn't see any of the problems that have come up recently. It really ran smoothly. When the plane landed, the bags were there within half an hour. And I know that some people have been waiting 3, 4, 5 hours going home without them. But I didn't see that. So I think it's a little bit sort of hit and miss, and I think the airports need to do better. I think the airlines need to do better with their check-ins as well. But having said that, having travelled to and from Istanbul, not a problem at all, and I'll do it again.
Yes, I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered, no, because, it's just that I think, actually, to be honest, I'm slightly scared of flying now. Because when I was
What's
young,
made you scared of flying?
Well, no, because when I was... Well, there was that spate of all those planes going down. Do you remember that time when there were loads of them going down and they couldn't find one of them? I don't think they found that one. But no, but what sort of put me off is because when I was young, I went to boarding school and I would fly literally probably 20 times a year. I went all around the world and everything. And also one of my first jobs on TV was travelling on the BBC holiday programme. I have travelled so much. I've had enough of it. I'm fed up. And then all the airport, I can't be bothered. You can only take 30 mils of the fluid in the thing. And then, one time I went, they threw away my Clarins. I'm like, no! I spent a fortune on that.
Maybe you need some better companions to go on holiday with. That's what it is. Some people are just relaxed in airports. I have everything ready in a plastic bag. I have plastic bags spare for other people.
So you're the organised one.
I kind of am the organised.
It's the organised.
I organise it.
Okay.
So, that's all fine. But I love that feeling of actually just getting on a plane and going somewhere and just experiencing something different. Yes, it's a bit of a hassle. It takes an entire day, but it is just so worth it.
Yeah.
So come with us.
You're
and then
also
you'll
right in that we need to shame these airlines. I think they've sacked about 8,000 people and put 11,000 people on furlough.
That's right.
Where's noblesse oblige? Where is looking after the people that are under your care?
Correct. And this is it. This is what I mean. This is coming back to bite them. And to keep selling holidays and to keep overbooking flights is appalling, and that needs to be cracked down on. And normally I'm pretty hands-off of private enterprise. But do you know what? No, not right now. They shouldn't have done it. They took money from the government, from taxpayers, and all they have done is sacked people. So, no, they need to bring it back into line.
But they didn't all do... I thought they took money from the government through furlough. You have to have the staff to be paying them. So you do that. Maybe they took some of the loans out. I don't know about that. But ultimately, they couldn't be bothered to keep people on furlough, even though, in a way, it wouldn't have made any difference to them because the people would have still been given the money. But they just wouldn't be working, which
now
is
they're
fine.
seeing the consequences.
And now, obviously, there's no... they have to try and recruit people. And people don't want to work for them because they know, and we know, that they didn't really have to let them go. They could have kept them on furlough. We, the taxpayer, would have rightfully paid for them because they couldn't really go anywhere. And it was a government policy that meant that flights were grounded. I mean, you know, but now we're the ones that are paying for it, not them. See, that's the thing.
And on the other end of the spectrum, so I've been to Newcastle and Birmingham over the last few days. Like, there's lots of really nice places in this country to visit, but it's so expensive to get there. Train fares are ridiculous. It's cheaper to fly to, like, France and back than it is to get a train up north. Why is that?
Well, there's petrol as well. Petrol's gone through the roof. God. What a happy bunch we are.
It's just impossible to holiday.
But it is, and especially when you add children into the mix, and then with sort of the rising supermarket costs. So even if you do a self-catering in a caravan, like your guest earlier, you've still got to go and buy your provisions, and that's not cheap. So the cost of a sort of great British holiday suddenly is not looking quite so good against, you know, a package holiday over into Spain at the moment. So all the hassle on one side is actually costing you less, and plus I don't particularly want to go and cook when I'm on holiday, when I cook all the time at home.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Because I have a little 4-year-old. He's so cute, his little face, but he wants things now. And the thing is, like, if I go on holiday, right, I'm thinking, I'll go on holiday. Mummy, can I have this? Hang on a minute. I'm in another place doing exactly the same thing I was doing in my own house. I don't know where everything is. I've got to now sort of... To me, when you've got young children, sometimes a holiday isn't really a holiday. It's actually more work. So I'd rather be in my house, moving around, doing stuff that is quite easy for me than going abroad, getting on a plane, you've got to do this, do that. You go, Mummy, what's going on, all that. Well, I could just sit in my house and watch GB News all day.
Well, what about day trips?
What for? No, I'm joking. No, of course, yeah, day trips are like, say, Skegness or, you know, or weekend somewhere. That's why I think that going abroad, I'd rather spend my time in this country now, just for all the hassle there is. I'd love to go to North Wales. Anglesea's stunning. There's that lovely Holy Island.
Yeah.
There's
I was in Hay
Arran.
last week
There's
for the Hay
places,
Festival. It's absolutely beautiful.
Exactly. Well, I sort of, with this lovely weather we're having as well, for me, I'm like, I've travelled so much, I don't really need to go abroad anymore. I've had enough, I'd rather stay in the UK.
I do think it's different when you have young children, because all you're doing is transporting your parenting into another location where you're right, you don't know where anything is, it's not in the drawer you thought it was going to be. When they get older, life is immeasurably easier in that respect. You know, I have a 13-year-old, he can carry his own case, he can sit and entertain himself on a flight.
Yeah.
And in fact, he and my husband just fall asleep. So I'm the one that needs the entertainment. But, you know, it's one of those things that you do. Day trips are fantastic, especially with small children, and the beaches around the southeast of Kent, you know, my home county, are tremendous. Can't beat them.
Well, Calvin, you've got all this to come when you have little people.
God willing, absolutely.
Little people, you'll be like, oh, God, I'm staying at home. That's what you'll be saying. Well, I'll tell you what, this show is absolutely nothing without you and your views. So let's welcome our great British voice to the programme. This is your opportunity to tell us what you think about the topics that we're discussing. Right, where should we go to? Let's go to Bristol. Let's go to Bristol. Why not? Let's have a chat with Lee Harris. He's a web developer. Lee, welcome to the programme. Nice to see you. Have you had your hair cut? Was your hair long before?
I did recently, yeah.
See, I'm good like that. I know that kind of stuff.
That.
Lee,
Although
do you
I shaved
think...
too much of my forehead.
Yeah, because it was a bit more floppy over the sides before.
It's
revealed your hairline. So, Lee, I wanted to ask you, what do you feel about this? I mean, are you sick and tired of going abroad, or would you rather holiday in the UK? What's your view?
I would absolutely love to go abroad. We've not been abroad for 7 years. So the last time I was abroad was we were in Portugal, just lazing on a beach in the sun. So I was thinking about that earlier when I was in the garden. But I'd love to go abroad. But I started my own business about sort of that time, about 6 or 7 years ago. So that took up a lot of my time. And then we had a little girl. So we decided not to go away while she was very little. And then, of course, we had COVID. So it's kind of one thing after another that stopped us going away. And now I'm kind of in...
Oh, I wanted to hear that bit. Oh, he's gone. Oh, I'm not
I'm
gonna find
back.
out. Oh no, he's back. He's back. You said he's back. You said he's back. You can hear him.
Sorry about that.
And now it ended. And now carry on.
Yeah, now I'm in a position where we're just desperate to go away. Like we spoke a few times about going, again, somewhere like Portugal or Spain, just have so it's not that I don't want to go, but now I'm in a position where I don't want to go. I've seen the airports, and
exactly.
Again, probably few countries have COVID restrictions, and like you said earlier, I can't be bothered with that. I just can't be bothered with it. So we do want to go. We will, as soon as it feels right, we are going to go away literally as soon as possible because we're desperate to do it. But just not right now. When everything calms down a little bit. I agree with you. We've done loads of day trips. We've been all over the place. We've been to the zoo a million times. I can't even tell you how many times we've been to the zoo since, especially we went to the Bristol Zoo last time, although it's closing down. But it's a very nice zoo. Compared to all the other zoos I've been to, it's pretty much the same as the rest of them. But no, it is good. It is good. So no, day trips, and being where we are, we're only an hour down from Devon, so it's beautiful down there. We go down to Saunton Sands and Barnstable, and we chill out down there for a bit as well. So we have had breaks. But I've got to admit, I feel like I'm slipping into this kind of easy, I can't be bothered holiday attitude now. It's very difficult to kind of motivate me to want to do it. But like I say, when I do think about going away on a plane and sitting on a beach in some nice country, that is very appealing. I'd love to do it.
Yeah, well, remember, you've got a little one, so it's not going to be as chilled out as you think.
Yeah, we haven't done that yet. It's on a plane, so it's going to be the first time.
Oh, lovely. Well, listen, Lee, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Lee Harris. He's there in Bristol. I think Bristol's near Bath, isn't it? Aqua Sulis. Beautiful. And they're not shutting down the Bristol Zoo. Oh, my God, that's so nice around there. Well, I'll tell you what, lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Sunny says, best is to drive to destination, which could work out cheaper. Start investing in motorhomes will save money on accommodations and flights when you have more than 2 drivers in the house. Long-term investment with no hassles and don't have to depend on anyone. I sort of like the idea of a motorhome, but it's taking corners that I don't like the idea of going around a corner. John says, I love to travel abroad, so I'm not sick of that. I'm sick of all the extra hoops we're expected to jump through lately, so I'm stopping in this country for a while. I think that's the question, really, isn't it? Sick and tired of all the extra things you have to do. Diego says, I shan't be travelling anywhere by scheduled or chartered ever again. Private jet or I don't go. He's got a Meghan Markle thing going on. Right, there's a poll up on Twitter today throughout the show asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? Let's see, I'm going to ask the panel, what percentage do you think said they were sick of it? Calvin?
45.
Yeah, 51.
51% said they're sick and tired. Let's see. Currently 50-50. You're so close. It's head-to-head. Right, well, you can cast your vote if you pop over to Twitter, and you do that right now. If you've just joined me, hello and welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua, and after the break, it's our health breakthrough. And if you're struggling with hay fever in this sunny weather, I know I am slightly, stay with us. But first, let's have a quick break.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 53 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, as you know, hay fever, I think now it is the grass pollen season before it's tree pollen. But hay fever is usually worse between late March and September, especially when it's warm and humid and windy like today in most parts of the UK. By the way, some places it's actually raining. But this year we've been hit with a so-called pollen bomb, and that's especially in particular in the south of England when we've had a mini heat wave, and then of course there's a lot of wind, and it's actually a nightmare for those suffering with hay fever. But sadly for some, this means runny noses, itchy eyes, dry throats, and is awful. I know, because I suffer from it every now and again. Now, there's currently no cure, and you can't really stop it. But there are things that can ease the symptoms when the pollen count is high. So let's have a chat to Dr. Lawrence Gurlis. He's the CEO of Same Day Doctor. Lawrence, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Nana. Good afternoon. I'm sorry to hear you're suffering.
Oh, yeah, I know. You know, I think it's partly because I have quite large nostrils, and basically it just, everything goes in. There's no stopping it. I could probably put a net in front.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that.
Yeah, well, it lets more in anyway. But so really, what causes, what is it that makes the irritation happen with hay fever?
Well, I'm lucky I've never suffered, but it's an allergy to the proteins in pollen. And we've had a particularly wet spring, which means all the grass and trees have bloomed. And now we're having a warm, dry spell suddenly, plus some wind, as you said. And that's really perfect conditions for a very high pollen count. So that's what we're experiencing at the moment. You talk about pollen bomb. Well, that happens when you get a lightning strike, when the pollen rises up and is split open by the lightning, and tiny fragments of pollen are released, which you can inhale right down into your lungs. And people can get quite seriously ill if you get a pollen bomb like that. But for most people, it's misery. And at this time of year, I often think about children doing exams and that sort of thing, because it's horrible for them. Two suggestions we can't offer at this time of year. One is closing the windows and staying indoors, because it's obviously a hot day. And the other is moving to a warm, dry country, because as we just heard, travelling is a nightmare. So it's a case of buying over-the-counter medications to treat this.
Now, what would you say are the best sort of things to deal with it? Because there are so many different things. In your view, is it the antihistamines? Is it the nasal sprays? Is it the sort of Haymax type things that you can put around your nose to stop the pollen getting in? What would you say are the best ways to deal with it?
A bit of everything, Nana. It depends. Different people suffer in different ways, but antihistamines has to be the first line. Fexofenadine, you can buy that over the counter, is a good non-sedating antihistamine. Don't buy one of the antihistamines that make you tired. As far as the nose is concerned, there are steroid sprays you can buy over the counter. As you say, you can put Vaseline, other things around the nostrils to trap the pollen. And there are some eye drops which are usually available on prescription for those people that get runny eyes. But it is a misery. But antihistamines every day is a very good starting point. Plus a steroid nasal spray such as Beconase, or Nasonex, which will reduce the runny nose, which is one of the most miserable parts of this. Of course, we've had patients who've had some of these symptoms and turned out they've had COVID, because there's still a bit of that around. There's been a slight increase in COVID over the last couple of weeks, possibly due to the Jubilee celebrations. So it's probably worthwhile doing a COVID test if you've got those sorts of symptoms.
Oh, I think I'd better do that. Sorry, guys in the studio, if it is that, but I just assumed it's hay fever. But yeah, I've not lost taste or sense.
Right, I'm not afraid of COVID. It's fine.
He's not afraid of it. We've probably all had it about 3 or 4 times each, anyway. Now, OK, so you mentioned that antihistamines, but there's loratadine, there's this one and this one and this one.
Yeah.
Are any of them better? Because I always, I'm thinking, I'll just get that one, I'll just get this one beginning with a C, one beginning with an L, another one beginning...
Yeah.
Which one would you say, or what's the difference?
Try to speak to the pharmacist and ask which ones are non-sedating. And I don't want to sort of plug particular brands. I've mentioned fexofenadine, which is one that we use. There's a higher dose on prescription, but there's a lower dose of 120 milligrams, which is non-sedating. It's a good antihistamine. And you can buy that at a pharmacy. There are others, such as Claritin, which are also very good. I would avoid the sedating ones, the old-fashioned ones, chlorpheniramine, the old-fashioned Piriton, which is very, very sedating, makes you very tired. So, try one of the newer ones, and your pharmacist will be able to advise you.
And in terms of antihistamines, if people are... You can't take them every day, or can you? And how long, or should you not take them for a long... what is... They're safe.
Yeah, during this season, people are taking them every day. If it's very bad, I say people take 2 a day to start with to get on top of it. But you can take them every day. Listen, it's going to be cooler and some rain for the weekend. And that's, as long as there's no thunderstorms, the rain is a great friend to hay fever sufferers because it washes all the pollen out of the atmosphere. So hopefully today will be a bad day, but it'll be the last of the bad days for a little while anyway.
A bad day, but a good day in many ways. Dr. Lawrence Gurlis, thank you so much for joining me. He's from Same Day Doctor. I'm going to ask my panel. Claire, do you suffer with hay fever at all?
I do, and it's mainly tree pollen, so I'm starting to have less symptoms, fewer symptoms now. But antihistamines, I take 1 every day, and it seems to do the trick, apart from my eyes being glued closed in the morning, which is pretty hideous.
But it feels so satisfying scratching them, though.
No, it's awful.
Does it feel so good? What about you, Calvin?
I have it acutely. So yesterday and the day before, it was debilitating. I couldn't do anything. My eyes are constantly streaming, so is my nose. I'm sneezing, and I'm just getting irritated, and it's not nice. I take fexofenadine, the one that he mentioned. I've got a higher dose than he mentioned, but it doesn't do a lot. Today seems okay so far, though, thankfully.
Well, you can probably trap the pollen in your hair, so you should wash it before you go to bed. Otherwise,
I mean, I've got air purifiers and
pollen bomb. Right, you're watching GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. We're talking menopause next. More to come after the news in the next hour. Yes, so coming up after 5 o'clock, we'll be talking menopause and whether we think it should be medicalised. Dr. Marilyn Glenville will be talking to us all about that. If you've just joined me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. My panel in the next hour will also be discussing some big topics. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has made a surprise visit to Ukraine to offer more support. Appearing with President Volodymyr Zelensky, he says it's good to be in Kyiv again. Boris Johnson has offered to launch a major training operation for Ukrainian forces, boosting the skills of up to 10,000 soldiers every 120 days.
We will continue, as we have from the beginning, to provide the military equipment that you need, and now, of course, the training that may be necessary to go with that new equipment, so that you, the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian armed forces, will be able to do what I believe Ukrainians yearn to do, and that is to expel the aggressor from Ukraine.
Well, President Zelensky says he and Boris Johnson share a vision for how Ukraine can win the war. He thanked the Prime Minister for his understanding of Ukraine's need for more weapons.
Particularly, we discussed the needs to bolster the supplies of heavy weaponry. We need to ensure our needs in terms of air defense systems. We started moving in that direction. Russian rockets remain a peril to all of our people.
Well, it comes after the European Commission announced it's backing Ukraine's bid for EU membership. Wearing the colours of the Ukrainian flag, President Ursula von der Leyen says it's based on the understanding that a number of reforms will be carried out.
Yes, Ukraine deserves European perspective. Yes, Ukraine should be welcomed as a candidate country. This is on the understanding that good work has been done, but important work also remains to be done. The entire process is merits-based. So it goes by the book, and therefore progress depends entirely on Ukraine. It is Ukraine that has it in their hands, and what could be better to shape your own future.
In other news, a former soldier has been convicted of murdering his neighbours in their home while their children were asleep upstairs. Stephen and Jennifer Chappell were both stabbed 6 times by Colin Reeves following a parking row near Taunton last November. Reeves, who served in Afghanistan, denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter on grounds of diminished responsibility. Thousands of flights are being cancelled over the next 2 months, disrupting travel plans for many holidaymakers. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights from 900 to 825 in July and 850 in August to help tackle staffing problems. The airport says it's taking the decision to help give passengers a more reliable and better standard of service. Temperatures have reached 32.4 degrees Celsius at Heathrow and could climb further still to 34 degrees in parts of the southeast. The Met Office has issued a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the southeast. That's the second highest level and means there are risks to vulnerable people. Julian Assange's wife says her husband will be driven to suicide if he's extradited to the US, where he's facing charges of espionage. The WikiLeaks founder has 14 days to appeal the Home Secretary's decision to send him. The Home Office says the UK courts have found extradition is compatible with his human rights, including his right to a fair trial. He's wanted by the American authorities over documents leaked in 2010 and 2011. Stella Assange says they'll fight to return Julian to his family.
This was always a possibility that Priti Patel would approve sending Julian to the country that has plotted to assassinate him. We're not at the end of the road here. We're going to fight this. We're going to use every appeal avenue. And we're going to fight. I'm going to spend every waking hour fighting for Julian until he's free, until justice is served.
Downing Street has welcomed the possibility of the UK hosting the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest if this year's winner, Ukraine, can't. A Number 10 spokesman pledged to ensure it would overwhelmingly reflect Ukraine's rich culture, heritage and creativity. The European Broadcasting Union's decided next year's Eurovision won't be held in the war-torn country. Instead, the BBC's in talks to host it in the UK, this year's runner-up. This is GB News. We'll bring you more as it happens. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 6 minutes after 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock even. Crikey, this is GB News. I'm Nana Akua, and for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of those big topics that are hitting the headlines right now. As ever, this show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall and Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. Still to come in just a moment, it's time for Friday Focus, and this week we're discussing whether we should medicalise the menopause. Campaigners including Mariella Fostrock, Lisa Snowden, Penny Lancaster and Davina McCall been to Parliament for a menopause march. They want the menopause mandate. This includes more menopause clinics, a dedicated menopause champion in every GP practice, and they've persuaded the Commons Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. But scientists writing in the British Medical Journal say that we need to be careful when we talk about medicalising the menopause. And for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? Hundreds of Ukrainian families have been left homeless in England after arriving on visas designed to secure them a place to live. And government's Rwanda plan being halted minutes before takeoff due to an intervention by the European Court of Human Rights, and plans to convert former RAF bases, one in Linton upon Ouse, into a reception centre for asylum seekers has been put on hold. Questions are being asked as to where these people can be homed. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? Send your thoughts gbviews at gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Right, so right now it's time for Friday Focus. We're going to look at the menopause. And as you know, Mariella Frostrop, some very famous people, Lisa Snowdon, Penny Lancaster, Davina McCall, they've all been to Parliament for a menopause march, and they want a menopause mandate. Now, this includes more menopause clinics, a dedicated menopause champion in every GP practice, and they've persuaded Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle to sign a pledge to make the House of Commons menopause friendly. Now, there are warnings, though. Lots of people writing, in particular in the British Medical Journal, that says that it's wrong to medicalise a natural process and promote the idea of reversing it with HRT. So today, on Friday Focus, I want to know, should the menopause be medicalised? I'm joined by nutritionist, psychologist and author, Dr. Marilyn Glenville. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio.
You're welcome, Nana.
I love that colour.
Thank you. I thought it goes with the weather today.
I must get something in that colour. It's really nice. So, Marilyn, first of all, some people might not fully understand what the menopause is. So what is it?
Well, it is a natural stage in our life as women, and literally we run out of eggs. So we're born with our egg store, our ovarian reserve, and then we get to a certain age that egg supply then declines, and we're basically going through the menopause then. Average in the UK would be around the age of 51, so there will be some women before, some women after, but it's actually that we've literally run out of eggs. We won't be ovulating, we won't be having a cycle. So
there are no eggs left?
No eggs left.
Not even one?
Well, there might be cases, and that's why we've got the other definition of the perimenopause, which can start in our 40s, where the hormones will start to fluctuate. Women may miss some cycles, but they could actually unexpectedly get pregnant because there may be some times that they're ovulating and sometimes not. So we have this lead up to the menopause, and the menopause is actually our last period, and we won't really know it for at least 12 months after, when we're looking back and seeing actually we're now post-menopause.
Oh, well, that's sort of sad to see them go, but overjoyed at the same time. But then that comes with certain symptoms, doesn't it? Because not every woman goes through it, the symptoms, that is. But what percentage of people actually suffer with menopause?
Well, it's interesting because some women, like you say, will sail through the menopause. Others will experience a number of different symptoms. It seems to be that the majority will actually go through it with very minimal symptoms, but there can be some women who might wake up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, having to change their clothes, finding it difficult in the work environment as well. So there's quite a variety, and it does change because it is a transition. We're actually moving through this stage and out the other side. So it just depends on how the woman's coping. Stress can actually make symptoms much worse. That's quite clear from the research. So there are ways of helping ourselves going through this transition and then, feeling comfortable with it and coming out the other side as well.
So one of those ways is HRT, which, a lot of people talk about that.
Yes.
But there are lots of different ways of coping with it. I mean, HRT, is that something that you
I've always gone... I mean, my first book I wrote in 1997 was actually Natural Alternatives to HRT. And I do agree with what's going on from the information in the British Medical Journal about not medicalising the menopause, because they're suggesting that it's actually, or the experts and the mandate that's coming through, that it's a hormone deficiency disease, that we've actually got a medical condition, but we are going through a natural stage, and we go through a natural stage at puberty. It's just we're going almost in reverse the other way. In puberty, the hormones are kicking in and we will get symptoms, we get spots, mood swings, the cycle's kicking in, and then we're going the other way as we get to the menopause. So I see it as this natural stage in our life, and I would like HRT almost to be the last resort. But at the moment now, and I do welcome all the media attention, because I've been in this field now over 35 years, and women didn't talk about it, but it's a bit taboo. Now, having all this attention, which is lovely, and that freedom to talk about all the symptoms, but it looks like now that the only solution for the menopause is HRT, and I'm not keen on that. I'm very passionate around helping women nutritionally, lifestyle factors, to go through this stage without HRT and just using it for those that absolutely need it because the symptoms are so severe.
So you deal with nutrition and balancing the hormones and things like that rather than... I mean, there's lots of different ways of handling it. If I hear you, I would definitely myself personally rather try everything natural before I finally take medicine, proper medicine at the end of it.
And there are, with any medication, there's always risks. So we're weighing up risks versus benefits. And because I see this as a natural process, women are taking a medication and it can increase the risk of breast cancer. That's the concern around it. And my other question always is, how long would the woman stay on it for? You know, is she going to stay on it forever? Or the difficulty is coming off of it, where the withdrawal symptoms might be severe for some women. So it's just weighing up, are there choices around this stage that women could make that choice and use different natural remedies, that sort of thing, going through it, and use the HRT absolutely if they need it, but smallest dose for the shortest amount of time.
Of course, and I mean, for many it's an absolute lifesaver. I know people have said it,
Yes.
it completely changed their lives, so, you know, we're all for anything that works. So what is your, why, you said it because it's a natural thing in terms of medicalising it, but there are benefits to medicalising something, aren't there, that, for example, you can get off sick from work and things like that, can't you? So there's, if it becomes a sort of medical thing, then the government will have, you get certain benefits for that if it's medicalised. Is that not the case?
Well, I would say it would be good to have, like having the champions in the GP surgery who would also talk to the women about what they're eating, looking at lifestyle factors, exercise, looking at those natural remedies, how they're, you know, what their diet is like, reducing the stress response, good research on things like cognitive behavioural therapy. So it's really thinking about other approaches to this rather than immediately thinking, well, HRT is the only solution, which is the feeling that's coming across in the documentaries, the suggestions that actually this is the only route to go. And I think the British Medical Journal were trying to bring that out, to not medicalise it in that way. And the expectation then, I think, and was cited in that article, is that women are going to expect the worst, that there's putting on there that all of these symptoms could occur. And unfortunately, some of the symptoms might not be connected to the menopause. And so everything may be blamed around this stage in our life. And that's my concern. And I've wrote books on the subject. I've written a report. And women are welcome to download it. I've got an educational website. It's called marilynglenville.com. And they can just download it. And it will give all the information about the food side, the phytoestrogens, checking for deficiencies, that sort of thing. So there's so much we can do to help ourselves that's really important.
Because in particular in the workplace, because a lot of people might not understand the sort of way it would affect a woman in the workplace. What kind of things do you think that companies can do to sort of help? Because obviously GPs saying that they're going to have a certain person who's going to look after people who have menopause, and there'll be a sort of staff type person. What about in the workplace, though? How do you think businesses can sort of facilitate women as they go through that?
I think a lot can be done, and I've done a number of talks for the police, and they've been really understanding, especially where women may be wearing a lot of equipment that may be too heavy at that stage in their life, or the kind of material may be increasing the things like the hot flashes, and also in the workspace, having some fans, having that ventilation. So people are really thinking about this in the workplace, of how they can help women go through this stage, and maybe just putting in some practical things. I think women are just a bit worried if they, at the moment, if they're talking about it, it puts a question about their age. but we really need women to stay in their job. They've got so much experience, so much potential, and being able to train the others coming up, that we don't really want to lose them because they're feeling uncomfortable.
Well, of course, and you're probably better. I mean, not that, you know, obviously the older the woman is, the less likely she is to go and leave to have children.
Yes.
So you've got women who are going to be dedicated and will stay there and not leave to have children. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but as an employer, you would know that, well, actually, this person probably won't be taking time off for kids to have children. So
and they've got a lot of experience, you know, been in that job for so long that they can give that valuable, you know, training to the younger ones coming up, and really is a benefit that the, you know, employers don't lose them. So whatever they can do to make the environment more comfortable, whether it is something like in the police with the clothing or the equipment they have to carry or ventilation, that sort of thing, and even just talking about it, women's groups, you know, being able to share the experience of what worked, what doesn't, really useful.
And what about for the men who are there? Because obviously they're not going to go through this unless we're having a Keir Starmer issue where we can't say what a woman is or a man. But what about the men who have to deal with, obviously, because they've got their partners going through this?
Yeah.
It must be very difficult for them.
And it's interesting because I do, at the moment, all my talks have been online as webinars, but I often do in-person talks. And with the menopause, oftentimes the partner would come. And that's been really lovely for them to understand, you know, what if it's a woman, what their partner's going through and how they can support them through this change. Because obviously it's different for men, and having that understanding does enable them to feel, you know, more sympathy. They're seeing and feeling what's going on with those hormone changes. So I think the men can be really supportive.
Well, Marilyn, stay right there, because I'm going to have a chat with the business psychologist and wellbeing consultant Lee Chambers now. So, Lee, welcome to the programme. I want to ask you, from a business standpoint, what impact does the menopause have on industry?
So there's a significant impact here. I mean, what I've seen is there's 10% of women who are suffering actually leaving their roles due to a lack of support. 80% of women we surveyed said they hadn't had any support at all. And obviously they are incredible, valuable assets to their workplaces, highly experienced, highly skilled. And especially in certain sectors, public sector quite often, they are the highest demographic, women between 45 and 60. And they're also the biggest growing demographic in the workplace overall. So, you know, they are such an asset, and some are unfortunately struggling an awful lot. That's then leading to a whole host of challenges. I do a lot of employee facilitation and hear those stories. And, you know, I agree with a lot of what Dr. Marilyn is saying there around being able to find a solution that works for you. But women definitely need a voice and an ability to choose what works for them and have a level of support from the workplace that really looks at what adjustments can be made, how they can be supported, and normalising that conversation. So both women and men in the workplace have an idea of some of the symptoms, have a bit of education and understanding about how they can support, and really be able to make that difference for those who are really struggling.
Now, Lee, would you like to see, do you think that menopause would be medicalised then? Because in which case, if I was to say I'm going to take time off because I'm going through my menopause at the moment, that would be sort of an acceptable reason for not coming in that day. But if it's not medicalised, then you sort of have to... people sort of don't quite understand what's going on, and there doesn't seem to be a genuine sort of reasoning. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's a really delicate balance, in my opinion. We don't want to get to a point where it's labelled a disorder or a condition, because, as Dr. Marilyn says, very much it's a period, a transition, a journey, and it's natural. So what we don't want to do is it's become this heavily medicalised term where we are looking at it from a disorder perspective. And in business, it's not a protected characteristic, for example. So reasonable adjustments are made based on an individual case, which I think is important as well, because symptoms are so varied across those women who find it challenging. And about a third of women actually find it really significantly challenging in the workplace. I think it's important that they have the opportunity within businesses, a space to be created to share those stories and share what's worked for them. Have that space and have a bit of understanding about what they're going through. Definitely have access to things that will make that easier for them to work more effectively. I'm really starting to consider as well, you know, we're in a world where sometimes, even from a medical perspective, understanding is quite low. If we can raise that, then, those women will be more supported from a healthcare perspective and then able to flourish more in the workplace and really bring those skills to their jobs every day.
Well, Lee, thank you for that. What a nice man. Lee Chambers, thank you very much. He's a business psychologist and wellbeing consultant, although he did say it's a period. No, it's the last period. That's the thing. He did say
transition,
that.
I think we'll go with.
Yeah, we'll go with the transition. It's the last period, thank goodness for that. Dr. Marilyn Glenville, it's so good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your thoughts on this. If people want to find out more, get help, where can they go? I know you've got...
it's an educational website. It's marilynglenville.com, and it's got lots of information on that, and this free report on the menopause and looking at balancing hormones with phytoestrogens, food and everything else. So it's where people are welcome to download that.
That's lovely, Marilyn. Thank you so much for joining me. A pleasure. Pleasure. Dr. Marilyn Glenville. Right. Coming up, the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? Hundreds of Ukrainian families have been left homeless in England after arriving on visas designed to secure them a place to live. And their Rwanda plan has been halted minutes before takeoff due to an intervention by the European Court of Human Rights. And plans to convert former RAF base in Linton upon Ouse into a centre for asylum seekers have been put on hold. So the questions are being asked, where on earth can we house people who've come here as refugees and migrants? So what do you think? We'll hear your thoughts. All you have to do is get in touch at the usual place. But first, let's get some weather.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office with me, Alex Deakin. If you're not a fan of the heat, good news. Cooler weather is on the way. It's already arrived across Scotland and Northern Ireland. In fact, quite a wet morning here thanks to this weather front. It's a cold front and it is introducing colder air, but it's not here yet. Still very warm across a good part of England and Wales and staying that way well into the evening. A balmy summer's evening over the Midlands, southern counties of England and Wales. Still a bit misty around the coast in the southwest and a little bit of rain on that weather front trickling into northern England and North Wales, but turning drier across Scotland and Northern Ireland this evening with just a few showers and a fairly brisk wind in the far northwest. Much more comfortable conditions as well with that cold front introducing the fresher air, but another very warm and difficult night for sleeping across the southeast, 17, 18, the low in the London area. And still very warm and humid in the southeast on Saturday, and still mostly dry here with hazy sunshine, but a very different day across the Midlands, central parts of Wales, South Wales and East Anglia, with some heavy rain developing and temperatures significantly lower. Generally dry across northern England, but with a fair bit of clouds. Sunny spells for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and just a few showers in the far northwest. Again, that contrast with comfortable conditions across the north. One more very warm day across the southeast, but temperatures much lower than today across that central slice, where some of the rain will be on the heavy side and last well into Saturday evening before slowly pushing further south and introducing the cooler conditions more widely as we go into Sunday. Now, Sunday will be a bit messy, but expect some showers across the south, a greater chance of showers in the southeast and certainly for the southwest, but much of the Midlands northwards looking dry and bright on Sunday. Just a few scattered showers in the far north with the winds coming down from the north. It isn't going to be warm here with temperatures only 13 or 14, and mostly we're in the high teens at best. So it is turning quite a bit cooler as we go through the course of this weekend. Bye for now.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It is 27 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, it is time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? I mean, hundreds of Ukrainian refugees and families have been left homeless in England after arriving on visas designed to secure them a place to live. And that was despite the government insisting that Homes for Ukraine and the family visa schemes would ensure that refugees had housing, and both are leaving people struggling with arrangements when they break down. And then, of course, you've got the government's plan to Rwanda. That's hit the rocks, hasn't it? There's loads of snags in that one. The first flight being halted minutes before takeoff due to an intervention by the European Court of Human Rights. Then there's a plan to convert former RAF base in North Yorkshire Village, in that lovely village of Linton-on-Ouse, into a reception centre for asylum seekers. Questions have been asked now. So where can we place people? And where can they be homed? What do you think? That's what we're asking for our Great British Debate this hour. Where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? Well, I'm joined by London representative of the National Residents Landlords Association, Richard Blanco, Ricardo Blanco.
Hello, Nana.
Nana.
Nana. Oh, sorry. Get it right.
So, right, OK, so we've tried these different things. There's a lot of people who are saying, no, you can't do that. The Church of England saying it's ungodly, or whatever they called it. The Rwanda scheme. There are people in Linton-on-Ouse, rightly, who don't want to be triple the size because an extra load of people have suddenly arrived in the village, because that's difficult for them to manage. And then, we're spending $5 million a day housing people in hotels. Where? What can we do?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because I think the problem is what we don't do is identify kind of 1,000 homes and then say, OK, let's get 1,000 refugees and put them in those homes. What we tend to do is discover that we've got a certain number of refugees and then try and find homes for them. I mean, the government has set up schemes like the most recent ones are the Afghan resettlement scheme. And with that one, landlords were asked to provide properties for Afghans, and that was through local authorities. So that was quite well organised. Yeah. Some of the challenges are that Afghan families tend to be quite large because they have kind of extended families with them. So that was tricky. And the Ukraine scheme, of course, has been this matching system where if you've got a room available in your house, you put yourself forward for the scheme. But generally what happens is local authorities have to just find what housing they can. Yeah. Very often they're using temporary accommodation, they're using hotels. And the problem is there's a massive national shortage of housing. And of course, there isn't enough housing for UK citizens. So, it then becomes a real strategy if we try and find more housing for, as we need to, of course, for refugees.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it, now? Because obviously I feel for refugees and people who come from different countries, especially if they're fearing persecution. I don't have as much sympathy for people coming across the channel by dinghy, only because I just, for me, that's just, we need to find a proper way that people can come to this country, and not that way, because ultimately it's dangerous. It's dangerous, for starters. But with all this objection, there doesn't seem to be any solutions, though. I can't see where the people are going to go and where it will be acceptable in terms of the British public, who are many saying, oh, it's terrible, the Rwanda plan's terrible, terrible, but yet without an alternative.
Yeah.
And that's my issue.
Well, the big issue is we need to build more houses, and I'm sure you'll be sick of hearing commentators saying that when we come to talk about housing issues, but the government set a target of 300,000 new homes every year. It's hasn't met that yet, and it looks like it's unlikely to meet that in the next few years. In order for that to be fulfilled, we need about 200,000 new rented properties coming every year. But actually, the government's disincentivising landlords from renting properties at the moment. A lot of landlords are starting to sell up. So the government, is failing to kind of think in a joined-up way about all of this. I think that would be my biggest criticism.
But, OK, so now, though, let's deal with now. OK, so they may need to build 200,000 homes to start catching up with the situation. But more and more people are arriving here on a daily basis. So what about now? What are the solutions now? Because I just can't see any. I hear a lot of objection to things, but I don't see any solutions. So I'm just like...
No, I mean, the solutions now are temporary accommodation on the whole. If you are deemed to be homeless or in housing need by your local authority, the local authority will try and find you temporary accommodation. Typically, if you're in London, you may well get sent to Stoke-on-Trent or, somewhere quite a long way away where there are more housing resources. And, often the government resettlement schemes have resettled people in parts of the UK, Glasgow, wherever, the Kent coast or where there are more properties available.
What do you think of the Linton News plan then? Army bases, is that an idea?
Well, we've seen a lot of commercial premises turned into residential housing, and I think the fact that we're looking at ex-army bases shows how desperate really we are to try and find whatever accommodation we can.
Why don't we look at housing Indigenous population? I mean, because there's a lot of people who could do with places that are on waiting lists and queues and things like that. Couldn't we put those people in army bases or mix it up a bit? Instead of having all refugees in one place, so all the people who've come across the channel, why don't you fill it up with people who are from this country as well, who've lived here, but also mix it in so there's more integration?
I agree. I mean, I'm not a fan of ghettos at all. I live in Hackney where, the street's incredibly varied. We've got private owners, housing association, council tenants. I think those are the most successful kind of settlements. It's not a good idea to just shove everyone in the same kind of place together. And, we've certainly seen schemes where refugees have suffered because of that. So it's best to mix it up, absolutely.
So we don't really have any real answers at the moment, but we'll keep thinking.
We need to build more houses. That's what we need to do.
Take time.
Yes.
Mind you, they can build them in weeks, can't they?
Well, yes, they can come prefab now, can't they?
Exactly. Well, Richard, it's always a pleasure. Ricardo Blanco. Thank you so much. That's wonderful.
You, my pleasure.
Richard Blanco, he's the London representative for the National Residents Landlord Association. This is GB News. If you've just tuned in right now, I'm Nana Akua. It's fast approaching 34 minutes after 5 o'clock. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, our Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, former Conservative advisor Claire Pissell and also Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Thank you, Nana. It's just coming up to 5:34. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has offered to train up to 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers every 120 days. During a surprise visit to Kyiv, Boris Johnson also condemned Russian war crimes and forced deportations. He told President Volodymyr Zelensky he understands why Ukrainians are not prepared to compromise over Russia's barbaric aggression. It comes after the European Commission announced it's backing Ukraine's bid for EU membership. Wearing the colours of the Ukrainian flag, President Ursula von der Leyen says it's based on the understanding that a number of reforms will be carried out. In other news, a former soldier has been convicted of murdering his neighbours in their home while their children were asleep upstairs. Stephen and Jennifer Chappell were both stabbed 6 times by Colin Reeves following a parking row near Taunton last November. Reeves, who served in Afghanistan, denied murder but pleaded guilty to manslaughter on the grounds of diminished responsibility. Thousands of flights are being cancelled over the next 2 months, disrupting the travel plans of many holidaymakers. London Gatwick is cutting the number of daily flights from 900 to 825 in July and 850 in August to help tackle staffing problems. Temperatures have reached a high of 32.7 degrees Celsius in Norfolk today and could climb further still to 34 degrees in parts of the southeast. The Met Office has issued a level 3 heat health alert for London, the east of England and the southeast. That's the second highest level and means there are risks to vulnerable people. Downing Street has welcomed the possibility of the UK hosting the 2023 Eurovision Song Contest if this year's winner, Ukraine, can't. A Number 10 spokesman pledged to ensure it would overwhelmingly reflect Ukraine's rich culture, heritage and creativity. The European Broadcasting Union's decided next year's Eurovision won't be held in the war-torn country. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News for gold and silver investment.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound is 1.219 to the dollar and 1.164 to the euro. And the price of gold currently stands at £1,510 and 18 pence per ounce.
Direct Bullion sponsors the Finance Report on GB News, investments that matter.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good afternoon. It's 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, we've just heard in the news that the Prime Minister Boris Johnson made a surprise visit to Kyiv today with the Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's hear what he'd had to say this afternoon.
Thank you very much, Jackie and Volodymyr. Thank you for having me once. It's great to be back here again in Kyiv and to see you, but also to see how life is coming back to the streets, to the cafes, to the restaurants. It's much livelier, I think, than it was just a few weeks ago when you and I went on our impromptu walkabout, Volodymyr, and that's a very positive thing. It's good to see visitors, let me put it this way, from other European countries coming to Kiev. But we've got to face the fact that only a couple of hours away, a barbaric assault continues on entirely innocent people. Towns and villages are being reduced to rubble. And as you rightly say, Volodymyr, we continue to see the deliberate targeting of civilians, what is unquestionably a war crime, and in a hideous echo of the past, the illegal deportation of people that the Russian forces believe are insufficiently sympathetic to Putin's aggression. And in these circumstances, we can only once again salute the heroism of the Ukrainian forces, the bravery of your armed forces. And in these circumstances, Volodymyr, I completely understand why you and your people can make no compromise with Putin. Because if Ukraine is suffering, if the Ukrainian troops are suffering, then I have to tell you that all the evidence is that Putin's troops are under acute pressure themselves, and they are taking heavy casualties. Their expenditure of munitions, of shells and other weaponry is colossal. And after our 114 days of attack on Ukraine, they have still not achieved the objectives they set out for the first week. So, Volodymyr, we're here once again to underline that we are with you to give you the strategic endurance that you will need. And we are going to continue to help intensify the sanctions on Putin's regime. We're going to do everything we can to continue to strengthen the diplomatic coalition of support around the world for Ukraine. And I completely understand and sympathize with the need for continued financial support for Ukraine. We're going to work together to liberate the grain, as you rightly say, that is being held hostage right now by Putin, depriving people around the world of the food that they need. And of course, we will continue, as we have from the beginning, to provide the military equipment that you need, and now, of course, the training that may be necessary to go with that new equipment, so that you, the Ukrainian people, the Ukrainian armed forces, will be able to do what I believe Ukrainians yearn to do, and that is to expel the aggressor from Ukraine. And that will be the moment for talks about the future. And it will be in that context of a free Ukraine that we and other countries will be making the security commitments and guarantees that we've discussed so often. And we will work together with you and with our partners to rebuild your wonderful country for the benefit of Ukrainians and, I might say, for the benefit of the whole of the global economy. Thank you for having me again to Kyiv. It's always wonderful to be here, and Slava Ukraini.
Heroям slava.
Boris Johnson speaking in Kyiv this afternoon on a surprise visit. Right, so it's time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? Hundreds of Ukrainian families have been left homeless in England after arriving on visas designed to secure them a place to live. That's despite the government insisting that the Homes for Ukraine and family visa schemes would ensure that refugees had housing, and both are leaving people, a lot of them struggling, when the arrangements break down. And of course, the government's Rwanda plan, well, that's hit the rocks. That didn't leave, did it? That didn't work out. The first flight was halted minutes before it was due to take off in an intervention by the European Court of Human Rights. And then if you think about the RAF, the former base in North Yorkshire, Linton on Ouse, where, of course, that's now, those plans are on hold. Apparently asylum seekers were supposed to be home there. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, where in the UK can we house migrants and refugees? I'm joined now with my panel. Today it's former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall and also Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. Calvin, I've got to start with you on this. Yes. All the plans, none of them are working.
Indeed. It's all short-sighted policy, isn't it? This idea that, yes, of course we'll help, let's take in refugees, but where are we going to put them? The problem is we don't have enough council houses for British citizens, or subjects, rather. Never mind anyone else. You have to help your own before you can help other people. It's quite common sense, really, if you think about it. We've got, 250,000 homeless people in the UK. They need housing, they need support. It's all well and good saying we need to help Ukraine, and I'm sure we do, but we need to help British subjects first and foremost.
Claire?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I think a lot of this stems back to the policies not being thought through. I think those of us that have worked in the Home Office previously could see this kind of issue coming straight down the line. When you open your doors, which rightly we should, you have to have the backup of the local authorities. And those were the very people that you could rely on to look at housing situations, to look at access to benefits, to schools, etc., who weren't consulted in the first round. And that's just a massive failure. But also this is making it largely known to people that our housing policy in this country is woeful. We aren't building enough houses. We are leaving a lot of properties left to deteriorate. We're not bringing them back into use. We've got commercial properties that are being left to rot on the side of high streets. Why aren't we looking at that? Why aren't we looking as to how to house our own population? And then with what's left over and a better use of the properties that we do have, we will then be able to help other people.
But it's just, I mean, what about the plan for Linton-on-Ouse? I mean, there's that one where, what is it, 1,600 people or something like that? We're going to go into a village where they'd only had 600 people in there initially. So you're almost trebling the population pretty much and actually overrunning with people who are not from there, so thereby they being the dominant force within the village. I mean...
It's classic replacement theory, isn't it? It's not very good. Nobody wants their culture or their heritage to be replaced. Of course, people are always welcoming. We're a very hospitable nation. We're always encouraging other people to come and live here, but under British culture and British values. And when you've got an entire area, an entire village that's going to be replaced threefold by people from another part of the world, that's an issue. That's going to cause problems. Of course it is. Not just a strain on the infrastructure, on the NHS, on education and all of that, but on the values and the very nature and the history of the local area.
Now, Richard talked about, you know, we need 200,000 extra houses or whatever a year and so on and so forth, and we might not even meet that commitment. But the point is, that's going to take a while anyway. So right now we're in a bit of a situation. What are we going to do?
Well, we are, but I mean, the problem with places like Linton-on-Ouse, and we've seen this, it was a sort of classic short-term behaviour from the Home Office. They were looking to place one in Hampshire on a very similar site, which was I don't know if anybody knows this, but the A303, which goes past Stonehenge, and this old MOD site was on the side of that. Completely inappropriate. There's no transport. There was no water piped in. There was no electricity. There was nothing.
That's a guess.
And it absolutely is. And they thought that they could perhaps bowser in some water. They might be able to put some generators in. But these people would have nowhere to go. The local village was a sort of 3-mile walk away, and it has one shop.
Did they go with it in the end? It didn't happen, did it?
No, they didn't. It happened the same way as Linton-on-Ouse. It got shelved.
Wow. It makes it seem like this refugee programme is actually just virtue signalling.
Well, of course it is. Well, it seems to me a lot of it is, isn't it, really? Well, let's see what you've been saying. Lots of you have been getting in touch. Debbie says, I'm worried for people like me in social housing. I'd be especially worried if I had a spare room right now. Once all the hotels are full, where are they going to go? It shouldn't be the councils dealing with this. It should be the government. Paula says, house them in the thousands of totally empty posh new flats, blighting the banks of the River Thames. Gaynor says there's not enough hotel rooms for tourists. Our ex-servicemen are sleeping rough on our streets. So true, so true. Well, listen, keep your thoughts coming. Hopefully the government will be able to come up with some solutions, but let's do something different. Let's do our quick-fire debates, the part of the show where we discuss some of the day's other stories. So today I'm joined by former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall and also Conservative commentator Calvin Robertson. Let's get started. The EU's Brexit negotiator said checks in the Irish Sea are needed to protect consumers in Northern Ireland against unsafe goods arriving from Britain. That's under the terms of the Brexit withdrawal deal. The province remained in the EU's single market, meaning that goods sold there must meet its standards. He refused to rule out the threat of a trade war, saying that the EU would keep all options on the table, but insisted that he still hoped for a deal. So, are the EU right to worry, Claire? Goods coming from the UK?
No. There's not been a problem with goods crossing the Irish Sea previously. I don't see why that should be a concern now. I think that the Irish people on both sides of that border are perfectly good at seeing what is, you know, a good product to go across and sort of the terms of it. So, I think the EU need to butt out.
It's condescending claptrap is what it is. We cannot have a border in this country. Northern Ireland is a part of this country.
Yeah, and also, why are they trying to make laws specifically in Northern Ireland? So, you know, because if they're going into Northern Ireland and saying, oh, well, the trade is no good with the UK, I mean, they are part of the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland, Absolutely. So it seems that they're overstepping their remit. But anyway, let's have a look. What about this one then? Brighton and Hove City Council says that Brexit is to blame, another Brexit one, for a weed infestation. The council banned weed killer and is now offering to provide residents with tools to weed their overgrown pavements. It said that the plants were proliferating because of staff shortages, which, almost 6 years on, it pinned primarily on the decision to leave the European Union. Calvin.
I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the logic here. The weeds are the fault of Brexit because the council 6 years ago didn't see that they would need to recruit more members of staff. I mean, come off it. Every single thing that the left do not like, or the Remain side do not like, they blame it on Brexit. It's nonsense. This council needs to get their act together and start recruiting local.
Claire, it's because of Brexit.
No, it's not. It's not an EU. It's not a Brexit problem. It's a council problem. And Brighton and Hove are well known for not doing things very well down there with all their bin strikes recently. So no, I think they just need to get out and start weeding pavements themselves.
Yes, so it's always Brexit. It's always Brexit. OK, well, let's see. What about this then? Air pollution. Now, we all know about that, especially with the hay fever out there. Targets are likely to be missed by the government, putting people's health at risk. Now, targets to reduce 4 out of 5 major air pollutants will be missed by 2030. That is according to current projections, meaning that continuing to damage people's health and the environment. To keep track on and to achieve that goal in 2030, it will cost local councils even more money that could be used to help ease the cost of living. So what do you think? Should we scrap air pollution targets during the cost of living crisis, Claire?
Yeah, I don't agree with green levies currently anyway. I mean, I think air pollution is a really serious problem around cities, but putting the cost onto councils isn't going to solve the issue. We as a country, if we're going to look towards electric cars, need to put the infrastructure in, and we don't have that yet. So stop putting the burden onto local councils.
Stop electric cars.
Devolution is a distraction, isn't it? The government set these targets and the councils can't meet them, so they blame the government blame the councils, and nothing gets done. It's all an absolute joke.
It is a bit, isn't it? Air pollution targets. Oh, for goodness sake. I mean, obviously, we don't want that air completely polluted and we want to do something about it, but...
I think we're doing relatively well compared to other nations.
But having been away, and I can tell you that the air here was actually brilliant in comparison to where we've just been.
Yeah, and 2030 sort of like this arbitrary figure that's just appeared out of nowhere because that's what we think it should be. Interesting stuff. Well, what do you think at home? Should we be doing that sort of thing? Should we get rid of those green levies? I think we should. Is it time to sort of get rid of all of these ridiculous targets that we have? We're in the grits of a cost of living crisis. But anyway, loads still to come. It's very happy. It's a gorgeous day out there. But coming up after the programme is Dubes and Co. Michelle.
Hello, Nana.
Hello. Oh, my goodness, you're dressed as a leopard and I'm a zebra. Look at it. It's the animal family.
Championing the animals, what can I say? Well, Nana, I am fresh from Doncaster. I've been on the stage there today addressing the Northern Research Group. It was all about levelling up, a big conference full of Northerners. My idea of heaven, alas, I wasn't the star performer. No, that was supposed to be Boris Johnson, but Nana, he didn't turn up instead. He's in Ukraine. I, for one, think that was the wrong decision. Many people disagree with me, so I'm asking, does Boris Johnson really care about the North and this whole levelling up thing the way that he says he does? Also, separately to that, I want to focus on another leader, Keir Starmer. Andy Burnham is asking, what does Keir Starmer actually stand for? Well, that is the million-dollar question. I'll be trying to find the answer to that at 6 o'clock. I've been wish me luck with that one. And also, many people will have seen it's awful, Nana, the footage that's been going around. A family in Scotland, it was all in the COVID times. The police kind of went in, it was a big kind of kerfuffle followed. And it's reached the courts this week. And I'm asking, really, should we be still pursuing COVID-related things now in the courts? Haven't we got better things to be doing with our time?
Michelle, sounds great. I love the Keir Starmer question. What does he stand for? I don't think even he knows. Michelle, thank you so much. Michelle is on the way. Well, on today's show, I've been asking, are you sick of travelling abroad? And according to our Twitter poll, 50.1% of you say yes, 49.9% of you say no. I've got to say a huge thank you to my panel, former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall. Claire, thank you very much. And Conservative commentator Calvin Robinson. And a big thank you to you at home for joining me today. I'll be back at 4 tomorrow. I'll leave you with the weather forecast. Enjoy the rest of the sun. And right now, Michelle is up next with Dubes and Co.
Hello, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office with me, Alex Deakin. If you're not a fan of the heat, good news. Cooler weather is on the way. It's already arrived across Scotland and Northern Ireland. In fact, quite a wet morning here thanks to this weather front. It's a cold front and it is introducing colder air. But it's not here yet. Still very warm across a good part of England and Wales, and staying that way well into the evening. A balmy summer's evening over the Midlands, southern counties of England and Wales. Still a bit misty around the coast in the southwest, and a little bit of rain on that weather front trickling into northern England and North Wales, but turning drier across Scotland and Northern Ireland this evening, with just a few showers and a fairly brisk wind in the far northwest. Much more comfortable conditions as well, with that cold front introducing the fresher air, but another very warm and difficult night for sleeping across the southeast. 17, 18 the low in the London area. And still very warm and humid in the southeast on Saturday, and still mostly dry here with hazy sunshine, but a very different day across the Midlands, central parts of Wales, South Wales and East Anglia, with some heavy rain developing and temperatures significantly lower. Generally dry across northern England, but with a fair bit of clouds. Sunny spells for Scotland and Northern Ireland, and just a few showers in the far northwest. Again, that contrast with comfortable conditions across the north. One more very warm day across the southeast, but temperatures much lower than today across that central slice, where some of the rain will be on the heavy side and last well into Saturday evening, before slowly pushing further south and introducing the cooler conditions more widely as we go into Sunday. Now, Sunday will be a bit messy, but expect some showers across the south, a greater chance of showers in the southeast and certainly for the southwest, but much of the Midlands northwards looking dry and bright on Sunday. Just a few scattered showers in the far north, with the winds coming down from the north. It isn't going to be warm here, with temperatures only 13 or 14, and mostly we're in the high teens at best. So it is turning quite a bit cooler as we go through the course of this weekend. Bye for now.
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable, and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So howie in for Real Britain Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.